Hey guys, this is a little piece of my new book on absurdism. I want to explain a couple of things about absurdism. Number one, we in Western culture right now seem to think we understand what surrealism is. And surrealism is, in my opinion, a bending of reality. And surrealism is related to absurdism. Realism is something that bends reality a little bit less than absurdism does. In the past, I've said that surrealism bends reality, and no, that's not right. So yeah, surrealism bends reality, and wait a minute, surrealism bends reality, and absurdism breaks reality. But the lines have become blurred in the recent years. The lines between absurdism and surrealism have become blurred. So now the gamut, instead of having little individualized spots along the gamut of reality, now have more of a blurred gray thick line as the gamut. And it's okay. It's okay. It's just something I think we're getting used to it pretty fast. I would have rather, and I'm going to say this, would have rather we didn't get so used to it so fast. Because I wanted to come along and be the one expert who explained it. But I honestly think, and this is not to my advantage to say so, I should think I'm now a little bit late to the party. And the reason I say that is because both surrealism and absurdism are being used more and more in advertising. And my new book, whose title I think says a lot, hopefully. My new book is Leaning Sideways: Why Absurdism is the New Power in Advertising, Marketing, and yes, even product design. That's the title. And I think, in terms of the first part, advertising, I'm now late to the party. And I say that because, as I just said a few seconds ago, some of the advertising that's happening now really already employs surrealism and absurdism quite well. I think it's quickly becoming standard. And of course, even though that happening sort of proves my point, again, I have to say, I kind of wanted to be the guy that came along and explained it all and suggested that absurdism would be a really good thing to add to our advertising, but it's already happening. Already ads out there with absurdism in them. And somebody said there was somebody said maybe there was a Taco Bell ad the other day in which has one kind of a scene and then it breaks to a scene where a guy rides in on a horse and doesn't seem related to what was said earlier in the advertisement. So that's absurdism. Uh, in my mind, and I've been studying absurdism for probably 50 years. In my mind, when you have a real break from the previous material, a real shift that is not connected, to what was said before, have absurdism. That's being used more frequently lately. So instead of being the guy that explains what absurdism is, I guess I'll just be one of the quote unquote experts that comes in sort of after the early adopters have already been created to say, here's some more wrinkles. And the more wrinkles to me are marketing, the way your marketing team acts in the strategy room, not the product they come up with, how they act in the strategy room. Because if you act a certain way in a strategy room, marketing strategy room, and therefore you act a certain way planning the ad, your ad is going to be more absurdist than if, I like to think this is the way it was in the early years of the entry of absurdism into reality. There was, in the early years, I think there was one guy on a large marketing team who was like the quirky guy that nobody quite liked, but the boss liked him, so they kept him around. So he was the token absurdist. And so little droplets of absurdism got into the ad. That was back 10, 20 years ago. Now we need a marketing team, especially creative teams within a business, whatever subset, sub-department of your company is in charge of being creative. That's one of the first places in a business. This book is about absurdism in business. It's already been in literature for 100 years, in art and theater. Yeah, so whatever people in your business, your a department within your business is supposed to be in charge of anything creative. Probably one of the first places that absurdism is going to show up, and probably still now, 2025, most businesses, that's the only place that upper management is comfortable having absurdism. They're not comfortable with absurdism in the boardroom. They're not comfortable with absurdism in product design, etc. So, but if you look closely, there are some very forward-thinking companies, a few, that do welcome a little bit of absurdism into other parts of the company. Now, I'll give you an example but it's a retro example. When Google first started back in the day, they were doing things in all parts of their business. They designed the offices, providing meals for people, providing laundry. All those things were very, very new things, were uncommon. now it's either become common or we've already passed through that phase and we're now in a retro. Something looks more like the 60s and 70s because we're in a conservative time with conservative leaders and people are going backwards now for a while. But new startups, tech startups, some of them still have new practices that we're not hearing about in the public because they're too small. Companies are too small to make a big enough splash, but there is a lot of examples of absurdism in the world right now. Again, I'm defining absurdism temporarily at least as introduction into a environment of something that is very, very different than what was in that environment before. Okay. Let's say back in the 1800s or even the mid 1800s, early 1800s, or late 1700s, in art, painting and such, realism was the type of painting that was done. And another example before that, let's stick with this one. Realism was the painting type of the day. And people came along like Kandinsky, who didn't paint anything even close to reality. So people were aghast and all that crap. But as you can see, more than, God, 18, that would have been the late 1800s, so 125 years in the world of painting, we now have just about almost anything can be done. It's shocked us lately because we're used to absurdism and surrealism in painting. So only Warhol and Mark Rothko and all these people. So, but that has not spilled over yet into business. It said it's been spilled over into the creative aspect of a business, like the team that creates the ad if you're a marketing company or something. So, and God forbid there should be any leap forward here a little bit. God forbid there should be any absurdism in product design. To me, an example of absurdism in product design is a car being designed that's asymmetrical. There's been very few car designs that have had any asymmetry. Most of those were concept cars, nothing that actually went on the road. It's not very many. So, but I think as we individualize product design, as AI comes on board and people are able to design a product like for one individual person, that time is quickly arriving. There will be more both requests by the customer, so initiation by the product design team for there to be asymmetry in product design. And other things that will happen, like very individualized aspects to a product, like a certain type of coffee pot might have a switch on it some customers want, and then other customers don't want that switch. So the product design and product build has become so individualized that one customer, one small subset of customers can order the product in a certain way. Other customers can order it in a different way. So think about that stuff. Probably have more to say on these aspects of absurdism in the near future. I want to add respect to our engineers, and I'm not an engineer, never been anywhere close to being an engineer. Don't have any friends who are engineers, but know you, ladies and gentlemen, sit there and design the products, and I believe that asymmetrical design and the other thing I mentioned, there being individual things like buttons or colors or dents or whatever on products that are individualized to a small group of future product users. You know, nowadays, or at least 10, 20 years ago, if you made a coffee pot, you know, a cheap ass coffee pot design that went on the shelf at Walmart to be sold for $10, $12, every one of those coffee pots was the same as every other coffee pot, with the possible exception of the color. It's the only change. Well, in the future, there's going to be subsets of people who say, well, I want a coffee pot, but I want a pink button on the side that reminds me that, you know, I don't know what to make up because I'm not. Reminds me that today I'm brewing medium roast coffee, or a button on the side that measures what gradation of roast this coffee is. Is this coffee that I bought mild roast? Is it medium roast? Is it dark roast? Is it way dark roast? Or a scale on the side of the coffee pot that says person first gets a coffee pot, they program it, and they say in the programming what they like, and say they buy coffee and put it in there, make the coffee. The coffee pot examines the coffee and tells the person in the home, this coffee is kind of outside the parameters of what you actually like, so don't buy this brand as much. And that thing might be a small screen or something, might make recommendations as to where to buy coffee in their area that they would like. Something like that, things like that. And we'll get other examples. But again, I'm not an engineer, so. All right, so I am going to stop this particular video. Thank you guys very much. Well, see you. Don't see you in the pasture, I'll see you in the future. No, go the other way around. If I don't see you in the future, I'll see you in the pasture. Joke from Ohio, 50s. Pardon me. And then he had a coughing fit right at the end. All right, kids, love you. Love you very much.